Hi, I'm Debbie Brown, and I'm the events coordinator for 62 Broadway, Laughing Heart Music in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the Global Music Project. And then you'll hear from my colleague, Louis McDonald, and he'll give you the inside story of the creation of Global Music Volume 1. Some of you may know me from my days as the diversity coordinator at the Association for New Canadians. That's where this project started. With funding from Canadian Heritage, ANC embarked on a 3-year journey to create spaces that were more welcoming for immigrant artists and musicians. It was a project to create a place where people saw themselves represented in the spaces around them. This started with a museum exhibit and an art exhibit with the Rooms in St. John's. The art exhibit went on to tour the entire province. Global Music was another part of that project. In collaboration with the Rooms, Music NL, and ANC, the Global Music Concert Series was created. And that series started with 3 concerts and grew to 5 concerts in the second year. When I started my position at Laughing Heart Music, I wanted to bring global music to the western side of the island portion of the province. And so in talks with the late Dr. Jamie Baker, we were able to bring Global Music Western Edition to Corner Brook in 2023. And from there, we always wanted to create an album, but it just didn't seem feasible when the project began. Now, with Laughing Heart Music's new studio and our sound engineer, Louis McDonald, this project was now possible. So, Global Music Volume 1 began recording in March 2024, and it has been a journey of sound and friendship. Not only was this project important to create awareness of the diverse fabric of our music scene in Newfoundland, it was also important for musicians to network and create friendships and collaborations with musicians across the province. For some musicians on the album, it was their first time recording, and they were able to learn through working in our studio. This album was important because it brings the level of contribution that immigrant musicians make to our province to the forefront. And we are so happy tonight to share that album with you and to give you a little bit of inside scoop on how it was created.
Hi, my name is Louis McDonald. I'm a producer here at 62 Broadway in Corner Brook. Today we're going to have an inside look at the recording of Global Music Volume 1. I've been a musician for many years, and I've worked on many sides of the music industry. I've been a tech, and I've been a theater tech, and also a recordist, producer, and a musician, a player. And I think this project was very interesting in that most of the styles of music were quite outside my normal, the music I normally work on. One of the things I've always enjoyed is learning new things and new music. So this project was a beautiful project to work on because of that. One of the participants was Andrew Kugumba, who is from Uganda. And Andrew plays a very specific, what I would call traditional music from Uganda, much like we have traditional music in Newfoundland. And I'll just play a little bit here. And we can look at the multi-track. And this is a song called Nandare. And the first instrument we're hearing is an instrument called the Amandinda, or Amadinda. He is very knowledgeable. We actually also use some of my instruments here just because Andrew could only carry so many instruments with him for the session. So some of the drums are actual natural handmade drums that my brother made that are in my collection. So the actual multi-track is broken into different elements, and we record them one at a time, basically. So for instance, here's the xylophone type instrument, the Amandinda. And this is actually multi-track, so we actually did layers of this instrument. And this is a single string, almost violin type instrument. It has a very specific sound. So for me, going up to the instrument very close and listening very carefully, and then try to match that sound with the right microphone and the right microphone preamp. was part of the process. And some of the drums, for instance, so this was partly Andrew's own drum, his djembe, and then a couple of my brother's drums, which are also suited the project very cool. So it's very much, the approach is very much based on the individual piece and the individual artist. We started with the Amadinda, and this was actually multi-tracked as well, so we did a couple of different layers. But this was the very first part, and this is a looped section of music. Typically, this would be played by a group of musicians, quite a few musicians. I think Andrew said it might be 10 to 15 or more musicians. So there may be several of these instruments playing at the same time. And this was our very first take and our very first track on this, which was this very simple piece. And then we added another voice to this using the same instrument, so an overdub. So Andrew would have been in headphones listening to this. And here's the other voice. You hear it coming in. And then we added a third voice, so to this, and here's the third voice. And then we proceeded to add all the other instruments. A lot of recording is a lot like building a house. We start with a foundation and you add things as you progress. This was a new sound to me, totally. And, you know, part of the fun for me is also capturing these sounds and always, you know, trying to keep the artist and performer in the studio happy, and so that they're reacting to their own sound and to their own playing in a good way. So that was also part of the challenge and the fun. We actually recorded a lot of music, and then the actual arrangement that you hear in the mix is something that we did after almost the entire recording project, or the entire recording process was finished. So the actual arrangement, where the instruments come in and come out and which instruments are featured at different times, were decisions we made after the fact, which is also not that unusual in the process. And well, the next piece of music we'll look at is a piece called The Other Side by Cristina Hernandez. Christina's from Mexico. This is definitely a very Spanish feeling piece, and it actually has spoken Spanish in the piece as well. Her demo that she sent to us before we even started the project was very complete and very detailed. In most instances in this track, we replaced a lot of the things from her demo with live playing from our in-house musician Scott Sheppard and myself on many different instruments. This one's fairly complicated, technically speaking. We'll just let you see the multi-track. So this song actually has more than 60 or 70 elements. I'm just kind of scrolling here now. See all the different tracks. And this one is definitely a pop piece, but it also has a real Spanish flair. And in matter of fact, we use a nylon string Spanish style guitar for a lot of the solo sections that are in this. And I'll just play a little bit, and we can hear the intro. So one of the elements that's kind of featured there is the solo nylon guitar, which is often thought of as a Spanish guitar. And as well, Scott also added, I'm just going to play you a couple of guitars here. So there was actually a whole other guitar section. Here's strumming come in when the song comes in. So there were actually, and if I was to look, because I'd refresh my own memory, there are actually 4 guitars or more going on here at the same time, all doing different things to augment the rhythm. Scott also played the bass. I'll add that. And as you can tell, the groove here is very Spanish, but the drum treatment, for instance, is very modern. Here's our drums, and now we have drums, guitar. There were also some electric guitars that are kind of hidden in the track. I'll just solo those. So there are quite a few elements in this song that are not up front, that are kind of hidden. And all of this came from Christina's original idea. We kind of extrapolated on those themes and went into a little more detail on different things, and until you hear this. And Christina's voice was the I'll let you hear a little, because she's an amazing singer. And she was such a good singer, in fact, that it rarely required recording things over and over, but that is still kind of the method for this style of music. So we did do a lot of different takes, but almost any take that Christina had done could have been used as the main take. They were all quite amazing. It's very much like a short story, a song, in that we have an introductory piece, and I'll just play the introduction just so I'll make sure everything's going here. Let me just pop back a little bit. So this is a very, only a few elements here at the top of the song, a little bit of Christina's voice. It's just kind of a hint of what's to come. And we hear the Spanish guitar, so it's a real setup to what we're about to hear. And then we actually come into we bring our percussion in, and this sets up our groove, and our tempo is much more defined. And then we're into V1, or verse 1. And we kind of, I always like to leave a little bit of happenstance in a session. So it's nice when things happen that you weren't expecting or that you hadn't planned on. So there are definitely quite a few details in this piece. Like I say, it's fairly complex with a lot of tracks, a lot of vocals. There is a phrase called tiered construction, where you kind of add elements as you go along to kind of bring things to a climax, and then kind of an anti-climax or a denouement, where you kind of remove things and kind of back down. So it is very much like a short story. There's an arc of dynamic, both in volume and complexity. For me, it's all serving the vocal. It's all about the lead vocal. So everything works to support that. One of the final stages of the project, or each individual piece, is the mix. And that's where we actually set all the levels and decide on the tonality or the timbre of each individual track. And the modern DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation, gives us a lot of control. So there's hardly anything we can't change or manipulate in the final process. And that's, in a nutshell, the whole process. So some of the artists on this project, were quite expert at the recording process, and some just minimal experience. And it's a big part of my process that everybody really enjoys the session, because I think that is part of the sound of a project, when there's the love of everybody involved distilled in the track. In this particular case, where all the artists were from somewhere else in the world, I also really wanted them to feel like they were being heard in a new place, with new people and new language, new everything. So which I can only imagine is very difficult. So I really wanted them to enjoy the process and feel like they were welcome, not just in the studio, but in Newfoundland, to be frank. So, and I hope that translated for them, because their joy of the project definitely translated for me.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about Global Music Volume 1, its creation, its celebration, and its importance in this province. We'd like to dedicate Global Music Volume 1 to the memory of Dr. Jamie Baker.